Welcome to the Commander Legends rules video. My name is Nelson.
And I'm Serge. Let's go over the new and returning mechanics. Commander is a popular game variant where each player's deck is led by a commander, usually a legendary creature. Players start at 40 life. Decks are 100 cards, including the commander. Each commander deck has a color identity determined by the commander. If a commander is red and green, then only cards of those colors can be in the deck. A final and important note, this is a singleton format. Each card in a deck other than basic lands must be unique.
Drafting Commander Legends is a little different. Each time a player would make a choice from a pack, they take 2 cards. At the end of the draft, players will construct a 60-card deck out of the cards they drafted, including their commander. Unlike a normal commander deck, the singleton rule does not apply. Color identity still matters. You can only play cards of the same color as your commander. Got to the end of the draft and never got a commander? Don't worry, Prismatic Piper is here to save the day! At the end of the draft, you can add up to 2 copies of Prismatic Piper to serve as your commander. You don't have to draft them. They can be added to your deck just like a basic land. Players will then use these decks to play a regular game of Commander.
Ever make a play so amazing you wished you could do it again? With the new Encore mechanic, you'll get your chance. Encore is an activated ability printed on some creatures that can only be activated when they're in your graveyard. To Encore, pay the cost and exile the creature from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that attacks this turn if able. They gain haste, sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery. Some notes. Exiling the card is part of the cost to activate. Once you announce that you're activating it, no player may take actions until you're finished. For example, they can't try and exile it from your graveyard in response. Opponents who are no longer in the game don't count when determining how many tokens to create. Reminder, each token must attack if able. Here are some frequently asked questions. Yes, the tokens count as creatures entering the battlefield and creatures dying. If a token somehow ends up under another player's control as the delayed trigger resolves, you can't sacrifice the token. It will remain on the battlefield indefinitely, even if you regain control later.
Find one commander to be really cool, but kind of lacking? Get your commander a buddy. Friendship can add a powerful new dimension to your deck. Partner means you can have 2 commanders if both have partner. If your deck has 2 commanders, use the color identities set by both. For example, if you have a white commander and a green commander, your deck may contain cards with a white and/or green color identity. Both commanders start in the command zone. For a commander draft game, that means you'll have a 58-card draft deck for your library. Once the game begins, your 2 commanders are tracked separately. If you cast one, you won't have to pay an additional 2 generic mana the first time you cast the other. A player loses the game after they have been dealt 21 damage from any one of them, not from both combined. If something refers to your commander while you have both in play, choose one. For example, if you're instructed to perform an action on your commander, like put it in the command zone into your hand due to command beacon, you choose one of the commanders at the time the effect happens. An effect that checks whether you control your commander is satisfied if you control one or both of your commanders. You can choose 2 commanders with partner that are the same color or colors. In Commander Legends Draft, you can even choose 2 of the same commander with partner if you drafted them, or if they are both big pipes. Reminder to track everything about them separately.
Do you feel like there isn't enough randomness in your Magic games? Ever want to live the dream? Do I have a returning mechanic for you? Cascade is back! Let's go, high rollers! Cascade means, when you cast the spell, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card that costs less. You exile the cards face up. All players will be able to see them. You may cast a non-land card that costs less without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. Here's some notes. Countering the spell with Cascade has no effect on the Cascade ability. You don't have to cast the last card exiled by a Cascade ability. If you choose to do so, you are casting it as a spell. This means it can be countered, and appropriate abilities trigger, such as if that spell also has Cascade. The Cascade ability triggers when you cast the spell, meaning it resolves before that spell. If you cast the spell exiled by the Cascade ability, that spell will go on the stack above the spell with Cascade. If you cast a spell without paying its mana cost, you can't choose to cast it for any alternative costs. You can, however, pay additional costs. If the card has any mandatory additional costs, you must pay those to cast the spell. If the card has X in its mana cost, you must choose 0 as the value of X when casting it. The converted mana cost of a spell with Cascade is determined only by its mana cost. no matter what the total cost to cast the spell was.
It's good to be the Monarch. Loyal subjects, extra cards, you get this very fancy hat. Just make sure no one takes it from you. The game starts with no Monarch. Once an effect makes one player the Monarch, the game will have exactly one Monarch from that point forward. As a player becomes the Monarch, the current Monarch, if any, ceases being the Monarch. There are two inherent triggered abilities associated with being the Monarch. These triggered abilities have no source and are controlled by the player who was the Monarch at the time the ability is triggered. They are, at the beginning of the Monarch's end step, that player draws a card, and whenever a creature deals combat damage to the Monarch, its controller becomes the Monarch. If the Monarch leaves the game during another player's turn, that player becomes the Monarch. If the Monarch leaves the game during their turn, the next player in turn order becomes the Monarch.
So that's it for the rules.
Thanks for watching!